Welcome along. Hi, my name's James Murray. I'm a partner in higher education at the firm Dole Clayton Solicitors, and this session is going to be a practical guide to the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act 2023. The first thing to note about the Act is that it is actually an amending piece of legislation to the Higher Education and Research Act 2017. For ease of reference throughout this presentation, I'll simply refer to the 2023 Act unless necessary to do otherwise. The second thing to note is that the Act only applies in England and only applies to registered higher education institutions with the OFS. It also applies to their constituent institutions. So, for example, think at the Universities of Oxford and Cambridge, their constituent colleges. The Act doesn't apply in Wales and Scotland. Separate laws and separate regulatory regimes apply there, and these are outside the scope of our session. On this slide here, I've given an overview of the key duties which are contained within the 2023 Act. The duties A1 to A3 are the primary duties, and these came into force on the 1st of August 2025. Other aspects of the 2023 Act have not yet come into force, and I'll note those as we go along. Now, for institutions who have already been subject to the 1986 Education Act, the A1 and A2 duties will be very familiar. The A1 duty is very similar, but it does have important additions, and I'll go through those as we go through the presentation. The same is true of the A2 duty, which again will be very familiar, and institutions will be used to complying with the code of conduct required by that Act. The A3 duty is entirely new, and there's not yet guidance from the OFS about how institutions are intended to comply with that duty. I'll touch on that later in the presentation. A couple of other points from this slide as well. You'll note here that the A1 duty now includes enhanced protection for academic freedom, as well as free speech on campus. I'll touch on this as we go along, but again, it's something which institutions will generally be familiar with. It's a duty which is already contained within their own governing documents to a large extent, and is already contained within registration conditions with the OFS.